The first thing I noticed was the key. It sat there, gleaming on the kitchen counter, almost mocking me. I hadn't seen it before. It wasn't mine, and it wasn't hers either. It wasn't even a house key. It looked like a key to a locker, or maybe a safe. But it didn't matter because the moment I saw it, something in my chest tightened, like a vice slowly crushing the air out of me. I picked it up, turned it over in my hands. There was no label, no identifying mark, nothing to tell me where it belonged. Just a dull metal key. But the feeling of dread I had in that moment was palpable. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something. I just didn't know what. At that moment, I could have walked away. I could have convinced myself that it was nothing. But I didn't. Something pulled me in. I put the key in my pocket, and then, without thinking, I checked her phone. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was because of the gnawing feeling in my gut, the way her smile had changed over the past few weeks. Maybe it was because of the strange look in her eyes every time I came home. But I had this feeling that something was happening, something that I wasn't part of. I unlocked the screen, scrolling through the recent texts. Nothing out of the ordinary, but then I saw it. A message from an unknown number. "You're late. I thought we were going to keep this between us." I couldn't breathe for a second. My eyes froze on those words. Late? Keep this between us? Who was she talking to? The next message came in less than a minute later. "Don't worry. I'll take care of everything. Just meet me at the usual place tomorrow." I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, pounding against my chest. My hands shook as I set the phone down on the counter. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. But I stayed still. I couldn't move. My mind raced, trying to process what I was seeing. What was happening? Who was she talking to? What was going on? I looked at the key again. It felt heavier now, like a burden I couldn't escape from. What was I supposed to do with it? Where was I supposed to go from here? I was married to her for 5 years. 5 years of what I thought was a solid relationship. We had our arguments, sure, but we always worked through them. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew everything about her. But now I wasn't sure of anything. I grabbed the key again, staring at it in my hand as if it held the answer. I didn't know if I was ready to confront her. Part of me wanted to throw it all away, pretend I never saw any of it. But I couldn't. Something told me this was just the beginning. I looked at the clock. It was 9:45 p.m. She was due back from her book club meeting in about 15 minutes. I had no idea what I was going to say. I didn't even know what I was going to do with the key, but I couldn't just leave it on the counter, either. When she walked through the door, she was her usual self, smiling, talking about the book they had been discussing, asking about my day. She seemed so normal, but I knew she wasn't. I knew she was hiding something. I didn't bring up the phone. I didn't bring up the key. Not yet. The evening went on, the conversation light, almost perfect, but my mind was far from it. The tension in the room grew thicker with every word she said. I kept staring at her, wondering if she could see through me, if she could tell that I knew. When she finally went to bed, I stayed up. I paced around the apartment, thinking about the key, the messages, and everything that had changed over the last few months. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to know. I had to understand. It was then that I decided. The next day, I would follow her. I didn't know where she was going or who she was meeting, but I was going to find out. I would get answers. I wasn't going to be left in the dark anymore. The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. I had barely slept, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts. The key, the messages, the phone call she received 2 days ago when I happened to be in the kitchen making breakfast. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but her tone, the way she laughed, it was a laugh I hadn't heard in months. It wasn't for me. That much was clear. As I lay there in bed, pretending to sleep, the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The life I had built with her, Dana, was a lie. There was no way around it anymore. I wasn't just questioning her actions. I was questioning the very foundation of everything I had ever known. I thought we were happy. I thought we were building something solid, but now I wasn't so sure. I got out of bed, trying to shake off the heavy feeling of dread that had settled over me. I didn't want to confront her just yet. No, I needed to plan this carefully. I wasn't going to make the same mistake I made before, jumping into things without thinking, without being prepared. I had to figure out exactly what was going on. I decided to follow her. Simple, but dangerous. It was risky, and I knew it. But at that moment, it felt like the only option. I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to come clean. I couldn't trust her anymore. Around noon, Dana left for the day. She had mentioned something about meeting a friend for lunch. A friend. The words hung in the air like smoke, and I couldn't help but wonder if that friend was Evan, the name that had come up in one of the messages I found on her phone. I tried to brush it off, but my gut told me otherwise. I grabbed my coat, feeling a sense of urgency take over. I had no idea where she was going, but I was going to find out. I followed her at a distance, making sure not to get too close. I wasn't sure if she had noticed me before, but I wasn't going to take that chance. I kept my distance as she drove through the city, weaving in and out of traffic with ease. She was heading in the direction of the old part of town. I knew she didn't have any family or friends living in that area, so I couldn't figure out why she'd be going there. She parked her car outside a small cafe. Nothing special, really, but it was quiet. As I parked on the other side of the street, I could see her walking into the cafe, holding her phone in her hand. She didn't seem like herself. There was something off about the way she moved, like she was in a hurry to meet someone. I waited in the car for what felt like hours, my nerves getting the best of me. I watched her go in and out of the cafe a few times, each time her face more tense than the last. The unease in my stomach grew by the minute. I had a bad feeling. And then, it happened. I saw him. Evan. He walked in through the door with that cocky grin of his, the same grin he had whenever he thought he was invincible. The one he wore when he knew he could get away with anything. They greeted each other with a hug, and I watched as they exchanged a few words, the kind of words that were too casual, too intimate for friends. The way their eyes locked. It was too much. My heart sank in that moment. I didn't need to see any more. I had seen enough. I turned the key in the ignition and drove off. I didn't know where I was going. My hands were shaking, my mind spinning. What was I supposed to do now? Confront her? Confront him? I didn't even know what I wanted. The betrayal I was feeling, it was overwhelming. By the time I got back home, I was a mess. I didn't know whether I was angry, sad, or just completely numb. But one thing was clear. I couldn't just walk away from this. I walked into the house, pacing the living room, trying to calm myself. I couldn't think straight. The key was still in my pocket, weighing me down. I wasn't sure why I hadn't thrown it away, but it felt like the last piece of this puzzle. It was a symbol of everything that had been broken. I sat down on the couch, staring at the empty space in front of me. My mind kept going back to what I saw at the cafe, Dana and Evan. The secret meetings, the texts, the lies. I couldn't let this go. I needed to know everything. I didn't confront her that night. I wasn't ready. But the next day, I made a decision. I would ask her. I wouldn't hide anymore. It was time for the truth, no matter how much it hurt. But when she came home that evening, there was something different about her. She was acting strange, more withdrawn than usual, almost like she knew something was wrong. I could see it in her eyes. She walked past me, heading straight for the bedroom, without saying a word. I followed her, feeling the tension in the air like an electric current. Dana, I said, my voice shaking. We need to talk. She turned to face me, her eyes wide, as if she didn't know where this conversation was going. And in that moment, I realized she didn't. She didn't know that I knew. I had the key in my hand, but I wasn't ready to show it to her yet. Not until I had the full truth. Is there something you're hiding from me? I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Something you haven't told me? For a moment, she just stared at me, like she was trying to figure out how much I knew. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. It was like everything was suspended in time. Then, finally, she whispered, I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out this way. Her words hung in the air, thick with a sense of finality. I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out this way. The way she said it, the way her voice quivered, sent a chill down my spine. For the first time, I saw her in a completely different light. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I trusted without question, she wasn't standing in front of me anymore. I stood frozen for a moment, still holding the key in my hand. My mind raced, processing what she had just admitted without saying it outright. Find out this way. Was she admitting to what I had already suspected? The key, the messages, the secrecy. It all led to one thing, and now I needed her to confirm it. But she didn't. She just stood there, staring at the floor, as if the words couldn't escape her. And that silence, that unbearable silence, was more painful than anything she could have said. I stepped forward, my voice shaking with a mix of hurt and anger. Dana, who is he? It was the question that had been burning in my chest for days. The one I hadn't dared to ask aloud until now. Her face went pale. She took a step back, as if my words had physically struck her. But then, after a long pause, she finally spoke. It's not what you think. She looked up at me then, and her eyes were filled with a kind of desperation. Roland, please, let me explain. Explain? I had already seen enough. I had already felt the sting of betrayal in my gut. I didn't need an explanation. I didn't need any more words. I needed answers. Truth. I could feel the anger rising, but I forced myself to stay calm. You're telling me this isn't what I think? I asked, my voice low but steady. You're telling me that you and Evan aren't, whatever it is you've been doing behind my back. Her face crumpled, and the tears began to fall. I never meant for it to happen, Roland. I never meant for things to spiral out of control. She took a shaky breath, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. But it did. And now, I don't know how to fix it. Fix it. She thought this could be fixed. She thought that after everything, there was any chance of returning to what we once had. How long has this been going on? I asked, barely able to control the tremor in my voice. The question felt like a blade in my chest. I didn't want to know the answer, but I had to hear it from her. I had to hear the truth, no matter how much it hurt. 6 months, she whispered, almost as if saying it aloud made it real. I'm so sorry, Roland. I never meant for it to go this far, but I didn't know how to stop it. Her eyes met mine then, pleading for some kind of forgiveness I wasn't ready to give. 6 months. 6 months of lies, of deceit, of her sneaking behind my back, pretending that everything was fine when it wasn't. I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't process the enormity of what she had just told me. 6 months of betrayal. 6 months of being utterly oblivious to the truth. I took a step back, my mind a whirlwind. I didn't know what to say, how to respond. My whole world was crumbling in front of me, and I felt paralyzed. Dana reached out, as if to grab my hand, but I recoiled instinctively, pulling away from her. Roland, please. Please don't do this. I love you. I didn't want it to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. Her words cut deep, but they didn't have the same impact they once would have. The love I thought was there had been shattered, replaced with lies and betrayal. How could I possibly trust her again? How could I believe that anything she said now was the truth? I stared at her, and for the first time, I didn't see the woman I married. I saw someone completely different. Someone who had been hiding secrets from me. Someone who had been living a double life while I was none the wiser. Who is he, Dana? I asked again, my voice breaking. Why Evan? Why him? You know him. He's my friend. I didn't mean for it to happen with him, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It just did. And it wasn't. It wasn't because of you. It was me, Roland. I felt like I was losing myself, and I thought this would make me feel better. I thought it would make me feel wanted again. Wanted again. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was that it? Was that why? Because she didn't feel wanted? I had given her everything. I had been there for her. I had loved her with everything I had. And what about me? I asked, the words spilling out before I could stop them. What about what I wanted? What about our marriage? I'm so sorry, she said, sobbing now, her body shaking with the weight of her guilt. I don't know how it got this far. I thought I could control it, but I couldn't. And now everything is ruined. Everything is ruined. I could barely keep my composure as I listened to her. Her voice, her tears, they didn't matter anymore. The damage had been done. I stood there in the living room, feeling the space between us stretch further than it had ever been. She had betrayed me, and there was no going back from that. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know where to go from here. All I could think about was how I had trusted her, how I had believed in us, and how she had shattered all of it in a matter of months. I turned away from her, walking toward the door. I don't know if I can forgive you for this, Dana. I don't know if I can even look at you the same way. I heard her call my name, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The pain was too much, and I needed to get out of that house before it swallowed me whole. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to leave. I had to leave her. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. My mind was a haze of confusion, anger, and disbelief. I just kept walking, letting my feet lead me away from the house, away from her. I needed space. I needed to breathe. The weight of everything she had just told me was suffocating. I felt like I was drowning, and I didn't know how to stop it. I ended up at the park a few blocks away from the house. It was quiet, peaceful, everything the apartment wasn't. I sat on a bench, staring out over the pond, trying to collect my thoughts. But no matter how hard I tried, the only thing I could think about was Dana and Evan. The lies. The betrayal. I never thought I'd be here. Never thought I'd be sitting alone in the park, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. I thought we had a good marriage, a strong one. We had our problems, sure, but who didn't? But this? This was a blow I didn't see coming. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the key again. It felt heavier now, as if it was the key to a door I didn't want to open. I thought about throwing it away, forgetting everything, but I couldn't. I needed to know what it opened. I ran my fingers over the metal, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I could go back. I could go home and try to fix things, try to forgive her. I could pretend that everything was fine and we could go on like nothing had happened. Or I could walk away. I could leave everything behind. Her, the lies, the broken trust, and never look back. I didn't know which option scared me more. The thought of facing her again, of hearing her voice, of trying to fix something that felt so broken, or the thought of losing everything I had built with her, the memories, the good times, the love that had once felt so real. I stood up, pacing around the park, trying to clear my head. My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me out of my thoughts. It was a message from Dana. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't want to read it. I didn't want to hear her voice again, not after everything she had done. But I knew I had to. Roland, please. I don't know what to say. I can't undo what happened, but I need you to understand that I didn't mean to hurt you. Please. I'm begging you. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time. My hands shook, and I almost threw the phone into the pond. But something stopped me. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was just the need for closure. I couldn't be sure. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked away from the park, heading back to the apartment. I needed to think. I needed to be alone. When I got back home, the apartment was eerily quiet. Dana was gone, which didn't surprise me. She had left hours ago, probably to try and find some way to fix what she had broken. But there was something different in the air, a sense of finality, as if the space itself knew that something had changed. I dropped my coat on the couch and walked into the bedroom. The bed was untouched, just as it had been when I left. It felt cold now, like a tomb. I grabbed the key and held it in my hand again, turning it over between my fingers. I had to know. I couldn't just keep guessing. I needed to find the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The door to the closet stood in front of me, and I walked toward it, the key burning a hole in my pocket. I felt like I was walking toward my own undoing. I slid the key into the lock, the small metal piece clicking into place. The door creaked open. What I saw inside was not what I expected. At first, I thought it was just more of her clothes, shoes, bags, the usual things that cluttered up the closet. But then I saw it. A small, black box tucked away in the far corner, hidden behind a stack of old sweaters. I had never seen it before. Dana wasn't the type to hide things, not from me. Or at least, that's what I had always thought. I knelt down and pulled the box out, my hands trembling as I pried it open. Inside was a collection of things, photos, notes, small mementos I didn't recognize. And in the center, there was something that made my blood run cold. A picture. It was a photo of Dana and Evan. Together. They were standing close, their arms wrapped around each other, smiling. The kind of photo that didn't belong in a secret box. The kind of photo that should have been shared. But it was hidden. Hidden from me. I felt sick. My stomach churned as I stared at the picture. It felt like a betrayal on top of a betrayal. The key. The messages. The lies. It was all leading to this moment. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I couldn't stay. I couldn't go back to that life. To her. Not after this. The room spun as I stood up, holding the box in my hands. My mind raced with thoughts of leaving, of confronting her, of burning the photo, burning it all. But no matter what I did, I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't fix this. I had already made my decision. I couldn't stop staring at the photo. It felt like my whole world was collapsing around me. The image of Dana and Evan, so carefree, so intimate, was like a punch to the gut. The very thing I had feared for months, the thing I had tried to ignore, it was real. It was all real. The lies, the deceit, the betrayal. She had been hiding it from me, and I couldn't understand why. Why Evan? My best friend? I sat down on the bed, the box in my lap, my hands shaking as I held it. The photo burned into my mind. Every ounce of trust one had placed in Dana, every moment I thought we had shared, everything had been a lie. The apartment felt colder than it ever had before. The silence was suffocating, and the walls seemed to be closing in on me. I felt trapped, like there was no escape from this nightmare. I should have felt angry, should have felt like confronting her right then and there. But instead, all I could feel was emptiness. It was as if the life I had built with Dana had evaporated, leaving nothing but a hollow shell behind. I knew I couldn't go on living like this. I couldn't pretend anymore. But I also knew I wasn't ready to face her. Not yet. Not after what I had just discovered. I needed time, even though I didn't have a plan for what to do with that time. The only thing I was sure of was that I couldn't stay in this apartment anymore. Not with the reminder of what she had done everywhere I looked. I grabbed my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. My brother, Adam. We weren't exactly close. Life had a way of drifting people apart, but I knew he would listen. I needed someone who didn't know Dana, someone who could give me a fresh perspective. Hello. Adam answered, his voice groggy, clearly not expecting the call. Adam, it's me. Roland. I hesitated, unsure of how to even start. I need a place to stay. Roland? What's going on? You sound, he cut himself off. Come over, I'm home. What's happened? I'll explain when I get there. I ended the call before he could ask more. I couldn't talk about it right now. Not over the phone. I grabbed a few things, some clothes, a toothbrush, the essentials, and stuffed them into a duffel bag. I didn't bother with much else. It didn't matter. The life I had known was over. I was leaving it all behind. As I stepped out of the apartment, I felt an overwhelming sense of finality. I had made my decision. The key, the box, the messages, they all pointed in one direction. I couldn't stay. I couldn't face Dana again, not like this. I didn't even know if I ever could. The drive to Adam's place felt like it took forever, but I didn't care. I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts, but I didn't want to talk to anyone either. I just wanted to forget. I wanted to run away from the life I had built, from everything that had broken me. When I finally arrived, Adam was waiting outside. He didn't ask questions right away, just gave me a look that told me he knew something was wrong. He was a man of few words, but when he spoke, his voice was steady. Come inside, he said, stepping aside to let me in. You look like you've been through hell. I didn't answer him right away. I couldn't. I didn't even know where to begin. All I could do was walk past him into the apartment, the weight of everything still hanging over me like a cloud. Adam's place was small, nothing fancy, but it felt like a sanctuary compared to the chaos I had just left behind. It wasn't home, but it was a temporary escape, and right now, that was enough. He led me to the couch, gesturing for me to sit. I did, not knowing what else to do. Adam sat across from me, silent for a long time, his eyes studying me. Finally, he spoke. Talk to me, man. What happened? I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. Dana, she's been cheating on me. With Evan. For months. The words came out like a confession, like I was admitting to some kind of failure. I found the photo. I found the key. It's all real, Adam. Everything I feared. He didn't react right away. He just sat there, processing it. Then he said something that struck me harder than anything else. You know, sometimes people do things that don't make sense. But it doesn't mean they don't have their reasons. I shook my head. What reason could there be? I loved her. I trusted her. I never gave her a reason to do this. He leaned forward, his voice low but steady. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe she was looking for something you couldn't give her. Not because you weren't enough, but because she wasn't looking at you. She was looking somewhere else. At someone else. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear excuses for Dana. I wanted to scream at him, tell him that he didn't understand. But deep down, I knew he was right. I wasn't enough to keep her. She had chosen Evan. She had chosen him over me, and no amount of reasoning would change that. I spent the next few hours in silence, each minute dragging on like an eternity. My mind couldn't stop racing. What was I supposed to do now? I couldn't go back to the life I had. I couldn't pretend it was okay. But at the same time, I had no idea what came next. Eventually, I stood up. I can't stay here. I need to get out. I need to figure things out. Adam didn't stop me. He just nodded, as if he knew I wasn't really asking for permission. I get it, man. Take the time you need. I left his apartment without a plan. I didn't know what I was looking for, what I was trying to find. All I knew was that I couldn't go back to the life I had. I couldn't go back to her. The world outside felt different. Darker, somehow. I was walking through it, but I didn't belong in it anymore. I was lost, and I didn't know how to find my way back. But I had made my decision. And now, all that was left was to live with it. I had no idea what I was doing. The world outside felt like it was closing in on me, and yet, I kept moving forward, not really sure where I was going, but knowing that I couldn't turn back. Adam's apartment, although quiet and somewhat comforting, was only a temporary refuge. The longer I stayed there, the more the weight of what had happened began to feel like a burden I couldn't escape. Every time I closed my eyes, the image of Dana and Evan in that photo would flash before me. It was like an endless loop, playing in my mind over and over again, reminding me of the betrayal. I hadn't contacted Dana since I left. Part of me wanted to hear her side of the story, but the other part of me, the part that felt disgusted and broken, didn't want to hear anything she had to say. I had nothing left for her. The trust one had once given her had been shattered beyond repair. But then, just as I thought I could finally start to breathe again, something unexpected happened. A message. It wasn't from Dana, though. It wasn't even from someone I knew. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the message was unmistakably intended for me. Roland, I need to talk to you. I know you're upset, but there's something you need to hear from me. Please don't shut me out. It was Evan. I stared at the screen for what felt like an eternity, feeling a cold wave of anger rise up from my stomach to my chest. I didn't want to hear anything from him. He had betrayed me just as much as Dana had, if not more. I couldn't fathom why he thought he had any right to reach out to me now. And yet, there was something in his message that made me hesitate. Something that told me I wasn't done with this chapter yet. Maybe it was my curiosity. Maybe it was the need to hear the truth, no matter how painful. But I found myself typing back, my fingers moving without thought. What do you want, Evan? I could almost hear him sigh with relief as he replied almost instantly. I know this isn't easy for you, Roland. I get it. But there's more to this than you think. Please, just hear me out. I sat there for a few moments, staring at the screen, trying to decide if I should just block him and move on with my life. But the fact that he was reaching out, that he was asking to explain, gnawed at me. Was there more to the story? Was he about to drop a bombshell that would change everything? Or was this just his way of clearing his conscience? I sent another message. I'm listening. He didn't waste any time. This isn't something I ever wanted to happen, Roland. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It started off innocent, just a friendship, nothing more. But somewhere along the way, it crossed a line, and I couldn't stop it. It wasn't just about physical attraction or anything like that. It was something else. She was looking for something, Roland, something she couldn't find with you. I felt my heart tighten in my chest. The way he phrased it, the way he spoke as though he were explaining a broken vase instead of a life-altering betrayal, made me sick to my stomach. It wasn't supposed to happen. He had the audacity to make excuses, to paint their affair as some kind of tragic miscommunication. And yet, there was something unsettling about what he said. It was almost as if he was trying to justify his actions. But was he? Or was he trying to open a door I wasn't ready to walk through? You don't have to forgive me, man. Evan continued, his words now a bit more urgent. I don't expect you to. But I need you to understand that Dana wasn't the only one who messed up here. I did too. I've been living with this guilt, and I can't keep it inside anymore. I never wanted to hurt you. You were my friend, and I know I've lost that forever, but I had to tell you the truth. I could feel the rage building inside me again. He wanted my understanding, my forgiveness. After everything, the nerve of him to send me this message, to try and ease his own conscience, as if everything could just be fixed with a few words. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, to shut him out once and for all. But something in me, some sliver of the man I used to be, wanted to know why. Why had this happened? What had been missing in my life, in our marriage, that had led to this? I typed again, my hands trembling. Why her, Evan? Why Dana? We were friends. We trusted each other. You could have come to me with anything. But instead, you went behind my back. You went behind both of our backs. The response came quickly, too quickly. I don't know, man. I don't know what went wrong. I never meant to hurt you, I swear. But somewhere along the way, we crossed a line. Dana, she was lost. I don't know what she was looking for, but I think she thought I could give it to her. She needed someone to understand her, to listen to her in ways that, well, I guess I did that. I had to stop reading. My hands were shaking, the anger threatening to boil over. This wasn't an explanation. This wasn't an apology. This was Evan justifying what he had done, as if it were some kind of misunderstanding, some accident that had spiraled out of control. I stood up, my legs feeling weak, my mind still processing his words. I couldn't do this. I couldn't keep talking to him, couldn't keep reading his justifications. I deleted the conversation, blocking him without a second thought. I knew that would be the last time I ever spoke to him. The weight of everything settled in. I couldn't fix this. I couldn't make it right. Dana had made her choice, and so had Evan. They had chosen each other, and nothing I said or did would change that. I didn't know where to go from here. I didn't know if I should reach out to Dana, ask her for answers, or just move on and leave it all behind. All I knew was that my life, the one I thought I had so carefully built, had been torn apart. The door had been opened, and once you see what's on the other side, there's no closing it again. The days bled into each other, a blur of uncertainty and rage. I moved through my life like a ghost, going to work, handling responsibilities, trying to function, but all the while the image of Dana and Evan kept replaying in my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see them, together, laughing, holding hands. That photo, that key, those words, they haunted me. The betrayal was suffocating, and I had no way of escaping it. I had cut Evan out completely, blocking his number, his social media. He had apologized, tried to explain his actions, but none of it mattered. The damage was done. I couldn't look at him the same way. How could I? My best friend had stabbed me in the back in the worst possible way. But what about Dana? What was I supposed to do with her? I couldn't avoid her forever, but every part of me screamed that I should. I should just leave it all behind, forget about her and everything that had happened. I should be stronger than this. But the problem was, I wasn't sure I was stronger than her. My phone buzzed one evening as I was sitting in the small apartment Adam had let me crash in. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't pick it up, but then curiosity gnawed at me. My heart beat faster as I pressed the screen. Roland, please, let's talk. I can't keep living like this. It was Dana. I stared at the message, my breath catching in my throat. Part of me wanted to delete it without reading another word, but I couldn't. My fingers hovered over the screen for a moment before I typed back, knowing that it was a mistake, but also understanding that I needed to hear what she had to say. What do you want from me now, Dana? Seconds passed. Then, the reply came. I want the truth. I want to explain myself. I need you to listen. I know you hate me right now, but I swear, I never wanted to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen. I scoffed aloud. You never meant for it to happen. I muttered, shaking my head as I read her words. How many times had I heard that before? It was always the same excuse. A mistake, a slip-up, a moment of weakness. But there were no slips when it came to infidelity. No mistakes that spanned months, hidden behind lies and deceit. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't know what to say. The next message came through, more urgent this time. I'm in the same place we used to go, the bench by the river. Please, Roland, if you can hear me, just come. Let's talk face to face. For once, just listen to me. I felt my chest tighten. The river. That place. I had spent so many mornings there, with Dana, talking about our dreams, our future. It had been a peaceful spot, away from the noise of life, a place to be together. How had it come to this? I stood up abruptly, pacing back and forth. My mind raced. Could I do this? Could I face her again? Could I look her in the eyes and listen to whatever excuse she was going to throw at me? Part of me wanted to slam the door on the whole situation, to walk away and never look back. But another part, the part that still loved her, the part that wanted closure, couldn't just leave it hanging. I grabbed my jacket and left, my heart pounding in my chest, unsure of what I was going to say or do. I just knew I had to see it through. The air was crisp as I walked through the park toward the river, each step heavier than the last. My mind was a battlefield. I thought I was ready to hear what she had to say, but the closer I got, the more I questioned that decision. Was I ready to hear the truth? Was I even capable of hearing it? Or was I walking into a trap, another round of empty words meant to absolve her of her guilt? I finally reached the bench. She was sitting there, alone. Her hair was messy, her clothes a little disheveled. She looked broken. For a moment, I hesitated. But then she turned, as if sensing my presence, and her eyes locked with mine. Roland, she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, my heart hammering in my chest, watching her. It was like I couldn't breathe. All of the anger, all of the pain, the endless nights of sleeplessness. Everything came rushing back in an instant. She looked down at her hands, her fingers twisting together in a nervous gesture. I didn't want you to find out like this, she said quietly, her voice breaking. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could keep it from you. I thought it would just go away. But it didn't. And now it's ruined everything. Everything. I echoed, my voice strained. You mean my entire life, Dana? You mean the trust, the love I gave you? That's what's ruined? Her eyes welled up with tears as she nodded. And for a moment, I saw the woman I used to love. The woman who had made me laugh. The woman who had held me when I cried. But that woman was gone. She had disappeared the moment she crossed that line with Evan, and no amount of tears would bring her back. I never wanted to lose you, she whispered, her voice almost inaudible. I thought I was helping myself. I thought I could fix what was broken inside me. But I wasn't thinking about you, Roland. I was selfish. I was weak. And now I've lost everything. I clenched my fists, my anger rising again. But this time, it wasn't for her. It was for me. For everything I had given up, everything I had sacrificed. The years of my life I had invested in this woman, and she had thrown it all away for a moment of weakness. Dana, I said, my voice shaking with a mix of frustration and sadness, you can't undo this. You can't just walk in here and expect me to believe that everything will be okay. It's not that simple. I know, she said, looking up at me through her tear-filled eyes. I know it's not that simple. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything. But I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. I was a coward, Roland. I didn't know how to handle things, and I made the worst possible choice. I stood there in silence, the weight of her words settling in. But no matter how much I wanted to believe her, no matter how much I wanted to find some way to go back, I knew I couldn't. The damage was done. There was no easy fix for this. Goodbye, Dana, I said quietly, turning away from her. I could feel the tears threatening to fall, but I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't let her see me break. I walked away, my heart aching with every step. But as I put distance between us, something inside me began to shift. Maybe it was the realization that I was finally letting go. Or maybe it was the knowledge that I couldn't stay trapped in a past that had already broken me. For the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could rebuild. The days that followed were a blur. I didn't know how to pick up the pieces of my life. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep living in the shadow of everything that had happened. I couldn't let the past define me any longer. I stayed with Adam for a while, giving myself space to think, to breathe. I spent hours reflecting on everything. On Dana, on Evan, on the life I had built with them both. But something shifted. The anger, the heartbreak, slowly began to subside. I wasn't ready to forgive yet. Not completely. But I had to let go of the bitterness. It wasn't helping me move forward. Adam was a good support, never pushing me to talk, but always there when I needed him. He reminded me that life goes on, even when it feels like everything's falling apart. I started to do small things for myself again. Reading, going for walks, reconnecting with old friends. I even started cooking again, something I hadn't done in months. The kitchen, once a place filled with memories of family dinners and laughter, slowly became a sanctuary for me once more. And then, one afternoon, I received a message. It was from a number I didn't recognize at first. I hesitated, but something told me I needed to read it. Hey Roland, it's Kelly. I know it's been a long time. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I've been thinking about you a lot lately. Hope all is well. Kelly. It had been years since we had last spoken. We had briefly dated in college, but life had moved us in different directions. I hadn't thought about her in a while, but her message hit me in a way I hadn't expected. There was a time when I had been happy with her, a time when things were uncomplicated. I stared at the message for a while, my mind running through the possibilities. Maybe I wasn't ready for a relationship. Maybe I wasn't ready for anything. But I did know this. I had spent far too long in the darkness. It was time to take a step into the light again. I replied, Hey Kelly, it's good to hear from you. I've been through a lot, but I'm getting there. Would love to catch up soon. The days that followed were filled with small steps forward. Kelly and I met up for coffee. We talked about life, about everything that had happened since we last saw each other. It was easy, lighthearted, and surprisingly comforting. There was no pressure, no expectations. We were just two people who had once shared a connection, finding it again in a different place, at a different time. The more we talked, the more I realized that I was ready for new things. I wasn't looking to replace what I had lost, but I was open to the possibility of something new, something real. The idea of starting fresh didn't seem so scary anymore. Time passed. I started feeling like myself again. I found a new rhythm in my days, Work, friends, hobbies, moments of quiet reflection. I gave myself permission to heal, to let go of what had been, and to embrace what could be. It wasn't easy, and there were still days when the memories crept in, but they didn't have the same power over me. One evening, as I sat on the same bench by the river where Dana and I had once talked about our future, I smiled to myself. It wasn't a smile of happiness or relief, but a smile of understanding. I had survived. I had been broken, but I had rebuilt myself. The pieces of my life weren't perfect, but they were mine again. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel lost anymore. Kelly and I kept seeing each other, and while I wasn't rushing into anything, I felt a spark I hadn't felt in years. We shared dinners, movies, long walks. We laughed together, and slowly, I began to trust again. But this time, it was different. I wasn't looking for someone to fill a hole in me. I was looking for someone to share my life with, to walk alongside me. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of what the future held. I never saw Dana again after that day by the river. She reached out a few times, but I never responded. It wasn't that I hated her. It wasn't that I didn't understand her pain. But I had learned the hard way that you can't force someone to be who they promised to be. People change, and sometimes you have to let them go to find yourself again. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. But eventually, I came to terms with it all. I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because I did. I couldn't carry that weight forever. And as I moved forward with Kelly, with new friends, with a fresh sense of self, I realized something crucial. Sometimes, the hardest things in life, those painful, gut-wrenching moments, are the ones that shape us into who we're truly meant to be. We find strength in places we didn't know existed. We find joy in the small things. And, above all, we learn that even in the darkest times, there is a light that will guide us out. And as I stood on that riverbank, watching the sun set, I knew that I was finally walking into a new chapter, one full of hope, possibility, and the quiet confidence that no matter what happened next, I would be okay.